the higher you go, not everybody can breathe the same oxygen. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Dr. Lydia Show. I am so glad you're here and sharing my journey with me. Today, our topic will be about how did I get from pleasing everybody to really loving yourself or loving myself. And when I started, taking notes and being able to share my feelings and my thoughts and how this really affects and translates into your bank account, right? My daughter said something that I thought was so profound. She said, she's just starting to learn this, but she said that if you don't think you really deserve anything, you will never have it. So that right there is a really important lesson as we go through this. All right. So how did I start to learn about pleasing people and everybody else? I am 5 girls. It's 5 girls of us, siblings, and I'm the middle child. Now here, you're not old enough to know anything at all, not too young to get all the attention, but you're just in between trying to learning and figuring out your own way, right? And so this actually, I think, was my first sense of trying to figure out where I belong. And what I did through my journey growing up is that everybody that I met that had things that I liked or that I noticed that I didn't like what they were giving or the vibe or, I don't know, for instance, here goes a tidbit. I don't necessarily like to be around people that smoke. One, because I can't breathe. I have asthma, right? And being around people that smoke, it really affects me. So growing up, seeing that, I wanted to stay away from people like that, right? So that's besides the point. Where am I going with this? I don't even know, but let's figure it out. All right, cool. So as a middle child, you're learning from everyone around you, your neighborhood, your peers. And as they continue to criticize you, then you figure, oh my goodness, well, maybe this is not me, right? If they say something about you, for instance, when I was younger, people used to tell me how big my nose was and how dark my skin was and how ugly I was because apparently I was not aesthetically pleasing as my other siblings were because they were light-skinned. And in the islands, I think that was most preferential. But what I started to do just by that is I looked myself in the mirror and I said, is this something that I could change? If the answer is no, then it is what it is. I'm going to love me for me with my dark skin, my hair the way it is, and all. The things that I could change, for instance, when I was growing up, I used to hear things of, well, you better be smart because nobody will take care of you. I took that to heart. I honestly did. And I knew for certain that I wanted to be able to take care of myself. Some of the things, boxes that people tend to put us in is like when you even go to church, there are things that, oh my goodness, like you can't do this because it's not godly or it's not heavenly like, whatever their perception of those things are. And then, of course, you fall into that trap of pleasing people because of that or limiting yourself or things that you may like. For instance, some things that I liked growing up, I might have liked jewelry. My church did not like it at all. And it was something that it was until I turned 18 that I was able to pierce my own ears because they're like, whoa, it's ungodly and all the things that came with it. I guess I was sinning or I was going to hell. I also liked my nose piercing. And it took me a very long time, like way in my 30s to come to my own to say, no, I like it because I like it. I like it. I don't just like it because someone else think that this makes me less of a person, because having a nose piercing didn't change who I am as a person, right? It didn't change my bank account. It didn't change my educational level. It didn't change the kind of person I am, whether I am a helpful, kind, or loving person or somebody that's there for people, right? So something else is that what pleasing people did for me is that it limited my growth. And I'm sharing this with you in hopes that you would learn really early that whatever the situation is, whatever limitation, whatever boundaries that your parents or society may put on you, that you may decide what parts of it that you want and keep that, and what parts you don't want and it doesn't sit well with you, do away with it, regardless of what they may think of it. Because again, this is your life and you only get one. All right. So it limits your growth. Not just in the sense that your bank account, it affects it. For instance, if your society or if your group thinks that, oh, well, on the weekends, we don't work, we go partying. And all of a sudden you get into the place where you're growing and you changing your mindset and you're saying, well, maybe I should be in more. Maybe I should be learning more. Maybe I should find seminars to go to. Maybe I should be reading more audible books to grow myself, right? And your parents don't feel that way. Unless you get out of that box and unless you say, you know what, I need new friends or something like that, then you won't grow. Something used to happen to me is that people used to call on me all the time, and it didn't matter what I was doing. I wanted to be this first helpful person to be there for you. And what I learned over that period, and it took me a very, very, very long time to learn this, maybe 20 years, is that after everybody was taking, I was being helpful. I was doing anything that they wanted. But when it was time that I needed somebody, nobody was there. There was nothing left. So I started to learn real early is that, one, save what you've got to do for yourself, right? So that when time comes, you can draw from that account instead of giving it to everybody else. Good deal? All right, cool. So the next point is, it will keep you in your comfort zone. I remember when my kids were really little, I used to spend Wednesdays to do Chinese and we will go to the drive-in movies. Oh my goodness, it was just a thing. And then after a while, we were seeing all the movies that were in the theaters and that was it. I felt empty, as if like, what's next? I'm here for a bigger purpose. It's like, what do? I'm really living paycheck to paycheck and I'm living this life as if I've got everything. And so I decided to make a change. What I did was, when I started again to read books like The Science of Getting Rich, I already shared with you The Richest Man in Babylon, but I will share like Think and Grow Rich. There were so many other books that made a really great impact on my life. And what I did was, instead of using that time to go to the movies, to spend time every place else, what I did was we used that exact same time and went to the library. It was great. Everybody was learning something. The kids did a lot of science projects. I get to learn and I developed myself into who I am. And that right there, I thought was extremely effective. The other thing was we didn't do a lot of television. I don't remember exactly which book I read, but in me learning and becoming who I am, it talked about TV and entertainment taking up a lot of our time. And once I sat there and I started itemizing exactly how many hours I sat there to watch the same things over and over and over again, I decided I was going to make a change. That was also an effective thing for me. So just by limiting the amount of hours that I spent giving to television or movie or social media or whatever the situation is, I had more time for me. I was not a part of the in crowd. A lot of times when things are happening on social media or in the news, somebody actually have to call and let me know. Or if it's not something that comes up on my news feed, I don't know about it. I remember the book, The Power of an Hour. That right there helped in such an effective way into having extreme time management, into learning to say no, into setting limits for yourself, into creating boundaries for yourself. So I didn't I got out of the habit of pleasing everybody, right? And I didn't stop giving, I stopped giving everybody me or too much of me. I was able to reserve me, my mind, and gave my energy to whom and what I wanted to do. And that right there is also an effective thing into stop pleasing people, understanding where your time is going. Because guess what? We all get the exact same amount of time in a day, 24 hours. And what we do with it, whether it's spending time with family, friends, wasting time watching television, becoming productive, investing an extra hour of that into learning a new skill that will improve your life, into that investment or that job that you want, or not just that job that you want, into that business that you want to create and leave some form of generational wealth, you will be able to have that if and only if that you do proper time management and stop pleasing people, and to be able to create the life that you want. Another thing that this helps is that once you start doing it, it's going to be a slow start, because we've been trained over time is to stop questioning everybody. You know, when we went to school, we shouldn't question authorities or teachers, everything. But now we're in a place where we're creating and we're start relying on ourselves. But the more you do it, the more you listen to yourself, the more you're able to say, you know what, my decision may be to start a business, but it's outside of the norm because nobody in my family ever started a business, right? If you did that and trusted yourself, you may have to do it alone. You may have to spend a lot of sleepless nights to be able to do it. But in the long run, it will pay off for you, because once you step out of that box and you start trailing your own path, who you become will be revealed over time. And guess what? You'll be a little bit more confident. You'll be able to stand up for yourself. You will be able to make better decisions and be confident saying that, you know what? I did that and that worked. And guess what? Even if it doesn't work, you know now that that doesn't work. I know most of you have heard it before. You fail fast, you fail, and you fail fast, and you fail forward. The sooner we make these experiments or these tests, like this is not going to work, the sooner we know right off the bat that this may not be it for me. Or not that this is not for me, is that maybe this is the wrong way to do it. And then you figure out another way to do it, the better way to do it. Or you learn from somebody else, or you go and read another book and you get another little nugget to be able to do it a little bit better, right? And so those are the things that will be able to help you to be a better version of yourself, to be more confident, to be reliant on yourself. And you know what? You can't bring everybody with you. I love to tell people when they ask me, it's like, you know, you do what you do. And a lot of times I do what I do alone. It's because the higher you go, not everybody can breathe the same oxygen. The reason is because they are not trained the exact same way you are. They don't have all the same qualities that you have. So even if they try to, the air is too light for them. It's not their gift. It's not for them to understand. It's for you. And for you and you alone, God has given it to you. So the sooner you use your gifts, the sooner you say, you know what, I'm going to do it, the sooner you stop pleasing people and start loving yourself and be okay with who you are, and where you're going, the better it's going to be. Also, another thing that I love is that when I talk to people and they're like, oh my goodness, you know, I've tried and I've been trying, but it's so challenging and all these things are happening to me because I decided to do it alone. I'm alone. I'm broke. That will last only for a while. It's funny because if you go back to all the people who started really good businesses, they started out of their garages. You guys have seen the Steve Jobs story, Jeff Bezos' story. It takes persistency, consistency. Just don't give up on what it is that you want to do. Another thing Les Brown always says is that the richest place is in the graveyard. The reason is because so many people had dreams that they wanted to do something. They wanted to teach. They wanted to start their own business. Maybe they wanted to write a book. Maybe it is that you just wanted to write one song. A lot of people did not do it, and they died with their dreams. You don't be like that. You go out, you do what you're supposed to do. Even if you get 100 no, 1,000 no, continue to strive, continue to learn. And I always say to people too, is that when you're going through it, it's that you need to learn something else. I've taught all my children one thing alone, and people say to me, it's like, why aren't they going to school? Don't you want them to go to college? Don't you want them to? I really want them to all have their own business. Let them be their own entity. The reason is because at the end of the day, school, you will always need to have a job. And that's what they taught me. I literally have a doctorate degree and I have approximately $250,000 in student loans. And when I started that as a journey, it's because my parents told me, like I told you before, is that my mom and dad really didn't have an education. So what they did was they sacrificed everything for us to go to school. And of course, if you talk to my mom, she would probably say it's all her. And then my dad would say, well, it's me too. But you know, I'm going to give both of them credit because as far as I can remember, it was both of them. But at the end of the day, when it was time for me to choose, I thought to myself, if you created a business, even as a side hustle, or say now that you have a job, the next thing you should start is not to get a second job. It is to start a side hustle, a business that in turn will be able to take over your current job, all your expenses, and will be able to take over that life that you want. If you go ahead and have 1-2 jobs, especially in America, here goes something that I learned because I also have made the same mistake. You will be paying almost twice as much of the taxes. That's it. When you do that, you'll be continually on the same wheel, rat race, hamster wheel going around in circles. You're going to be 40 years from now doing the exact same thing. In order for you to make a difference in your life, find something that you love to do. And I say the term love loosely because guess what? You're not always going to love to do it. You're not always going to want to get up and do it. But know that you getting up and do it, or know the why. Why it is that I truly want to do it. Because I want generational wealth. I want better life for myself and my children. I want to be able to afford a life to send my future generations to school if that's what it is. I want to be able to buy a house. I want to be able to buy the car of my dreams. I want to be able to take vacations if I like. Whatever your why is, you've got to remember that. So on those days that you don't feel like doing it, on those Sundays and Mondays that you don't want to do that, or you don't want to make that extra call for yourself, I'm not talking about your job, right? Because somebody's holding you accountable. But for yourself, when you really have to get up and say, you know what? I need to make this extra call. I need to make these promotional calls for myself. And somebody's telling you, no. Just remind yourself that, guess what? If I was doing it for somebody else, I would be doing it without complaint. So here, you should be working for yourself 2 or 3 times as hard. Good deal? All right, cool. Listen, also, the next tip is ask for help. I know a lot of times it's challenging to ask for help, but you should. You never know who is able to help you. And I hear a lot of people say that, oh, when you're working on your dreams or when you're doing what you're doing, you should go at it alone and be this lone monster. No one become anything alone. You've got mastermind. A tree doesn't become and bear fruit without its roots. You've got to find those roots. You've got to find those mastermind. And you never know. Like, I think there was this study that shows that the people that you're trying to meet is always 6 connections away. Ask for help. Say something to somebody. When I was younger, we were in a situation. I won't disclose the full situation, but I was in a situation, and then everybody was like, don't say anything, don't say anything. And as I started opening up my mouth, I'm telling you, it's like God started, universe. Once you decide what you want, the universe made the way and opened it up, and it put all the people in my path that was able to help me. But had I not say anything or opened my mouth, I would not have been able to get the help that I needed. All right. So the next tip now is accept yourself for where you are and where you're going. That right there can be extremely hard. And I talked about that in my last episode. If you haven't, go ahead and check it out, because a lot of people are embarrassed of where they are. Remember Steve Harvey? He was homeless in his car. Where you are now is not an indication of where you are in the future. The decisions that you make today, what you do with your time, where you're going, what financial decisions that you make, how much money you save, how much money you invest, what you spend your money on, who you spend your time with, your friends, your group of circle. Those are the things, are an indication of who you will become. So always remember that. Right now, where you are is an indication of where you've been, or all those things that you've created to be at this place. Now, to make a different decision, to create a different path, you have to make better or different decisions to change what your future will look like. Be honest with yourself about where you are, what you're going, what you want. Make decisions. It's funny to me that some people will want, oh my goodness, I want this awesome house. I want this amazing family in a suburban neighborhood, or I want this fancy car. But they are not willing to put any work in. They will sit there, and every game, every football game or every basketball game, they're there. They're on top of it. But when it comes to your future and your dreams, you're not. You've got to reshape that thinking. Now, what you've noticed over the last episode and this episode and a few more episodes to come is that how can this be about financial literacy and you helping us, and then we haven't heard one tip about money or anything like that? Here goes the best thing I will tell you. In order for you to become and be, I will go back to the quote that I said first. If you don't think you deserve anything, you won't get it. It all starts in the mind. And so once you learn that, you should reshape your thinking, you reshape your thoughts, your surroundings, and your actions, then everything else will fall into place. The last thing I will tell you here is that I spoke to a young man I was mentoring, and I was telling him, he was like, oh my goodness, I want this job or this amount of money. And for me, he was like, oh, I want to make about $50,000 this year. And I said, first of all, did you know that money, you attract it? And he was like, huh? Most of us go out and we're chasing money instead of allowing money to work for us, instead of attracting where we want to be, attracting the life that we want. We all sitting here, instead of saying that, okay, well, there's so many gems in becoming and in getting the life that you deserve, in stop pleasing people and loving yourself. And once you become that, in accepting where you are, where you're going, and even if people say no to you, I love who I am. You may not like that I am this or that. That's your business. Your opinion of me had nothing to do with where I am and where it is I'm going. You could also anchor me in a point in life of where you used to know who I am, but because I am constantly growing, that person is no more. So that is all the tips and awesomeness that I wanted to share with you today, is that how I became from stop pleasing everybody and loving myself. I hope that a lot of the things or the nuggets that I have given you within this episode has helped you or will help you to become better. Again, remember to share, like, subscribe as I continue to share and be my authentic self with you. Again, thank you for listening to the Dr. Lydia Show. I'm Dr. Lydia, and we'll talk soon.